Today I'm going to talk to you about 5 things you need to know about buying newer construction and why I think newer construction is often better. Hey everyone, my name is Jamie Pretzi. I'm a real estate agent in Miami-Dade and Broward counties, and today I'm going to talk to you about 5 reasons why I think you should consider buying newer construction over older homes that need a lot of renovation. But first, before we get started, if this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button so you never miss another update. We do put out new videos every week. Also, use the link in our information box and download our free guides today. There's also contact information in that information box, so if you want to call us, text us, email us, whatever works best for you is fine by us. Okay, let's get started. Sometimes when we start working with buyers, they are approved at a certain price point, and then they just decide that they don't want to spend that much money on a property. And I get it. I think that's very wise. I think it's super responsible, and I think it's a great way to go about buying a house, not to maximize your budget every single month. However, I also think you have to be very careful about going way too low in terms of expectations, renovations, and what you're going to have to do to get that property in the shape that you want to get it. Also, there are a lot of other factors in our area that are involved with the cost of insurance in terms of the age and condition of that property. So I think you have to think through all of these details before you just get settled in on a price point with the idea that you're going to be renovating a property. So let's talk about a few reasons why I think newer construction is better, or significantly remodeled properties are better, just to kind of give you something to think about as you're looking at properties online and then actually as we go to tour the properties in person. Newer construction is really great, and I think it's awesome because now in today's market, a lot of builders build properties with, of course, the end user in mind. You're not buying a property that was, kind of cookie cutter built, 30 years ago. You're building a property based on today's standards, what you expect to have from a property based on how you're living in today's standards. Also, builders build properties with the lifestyle of how people live today. So a lot of times you'll find a lot more open floor plan, a lot more open wall space, and just with the ideas and the aesthetics and the materials and the appliances in the way which people use that property based on today's standards. And that goes a long way, because I can't tell you how many times people have purchased older homes and they need to move walls because, you don't want to be stuck inside of a kitchen all by yourself. At least a lot of my buyers don't. They want to enjoy the rest of the family as they're cooking that meal. And if you have to buy a property that you have to renovate and open up everything, that can just turn into a can of worms if you're not experienced with doing that. And it's a lot of work. So you have to think about sort of the other side of buying a property that needs a lot of work. One thing that I love about newer construction is I really like a light inside of a home. And very often newer construction comes with much larger windows and lighting. And a lot of builders, they do strategically place those windows based on the light of that property and as the light flows through that home during the day. And to me, I love natural light from outside. So that's another reason why I love newer construction, is just the windows and the lighting throughout properties. A lot of times in the older properties, you are really stuck based on the certain style. I'm looking at a window now. A lot of times in some of the older homes, you may not be able to open up the space of a window because the city may not allow you. There may be permitting rules and design rules in place for that neighborhood. So you may not be able to open up a window space and get a lot of light as you would in a newer construction property. So to me, light is everything. And that's why I think newer construction is sometimes a little bit of better option if that's also important to you. Also, people really care a lot about the cost of insurance. And so if you are buying a newer property, you can typically expect the insurance to be a bit more cost efficient than an older home. Now, there's a lot of details that go into the cost of insurance, and it's really property by property and the elevation of that property. But A lot of properties that are brand new today, they are built with elevation in mind, and that can definitely affect the flood insurance. And also a lot of newer homes, because they are a newer build, they are built on a different standard than older properties, and that allows the cost of insurance to be a lot more cost effective. Also, many of the newer homes, because of the area where we live, the builders, they build these properties in mind with the materials they know will affect the cost of insurance, and that goes a long way in owning that property in terms of the cost of insurance from year to year. Older properties, you can update them, but sometimes you cannot update them in a way that can affect the cost of insurance as much as a newer home could be affected by the cost of that insurance. So there's just a lot that goes into insurance, but I would say generally speaking, insurance companies like newer homes, and as such, the properties tend to be a little bit more cost effective with the insurance every single year. Another reason why I love newer construction is because it's a lot less time consuming. Really, you just close on the property and you move in, and you can do the fun stuff like the design stuff, buying new furniture, and all of those, to me, fun things, versus renovating a property from the beginning to the end and dealing with contractors and dealing with the city and dealing with permits. At least you know when you buy new construction, you know exactly what you're getting on the day that you close. Versus an older home, you have a lot of unknowns, and sometimes a lot of those unknowns can add up to a lot of money. The main point that I want to get across today is that sometimes people will be really frugal on buying that property because they just don't want to have that payment every single month, and I get it. But there can be some things in that property that can actually add up to the cost of the newer construction. For instance, if you have to renovate the kitchen, the bathrooms, maybe you have to pay for that more expensive insurance policy because the property is not in as good of condition as that other newer home. Sometimes you need to really put everything down on paper and add it up so that you can see maybe it's worth going ahead and spending a little bit of extra money and buying that new property. All right, well, those are my 5 details. I think I gave you some more about why I love newer construction. And if you are tired of looking at outdated properties online, please feel free to reach out to us. We're always here to be a resource for you. And I love looking at homes, so I could do that all day long. Okay, that's it for today. My name's Jamie Pretzi. This is my husband, Ogden Pretzi. You can find us online on Instagram at The Pretzis, and I put a lot of tips there as well. And we'll see you soon.